I really thought there could have been a sponsorship here. This would have been perfect. Come on.
True North Reviews, True North Reviews, True North Reviews.
Hey there, welcome to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are discussing the Shawn Mendes album, Wonder. Shawn Mendes, the Canadian heartthrob, singer-songwriter, has long hair now, please cut it off, the musician. At the peak of success from In My Blood and Lost in Japan from his self-titled, Shawn has since cemented and confirmed a relationship with fellow artist Camila Cabello after their hot and steamy collaboration on Senorita in 2019, and has led to this album Wonder very much being a strong reflection on the experience of falling in love. Normally, I couldn't care less to keep up with the celebrity gossip, nor have the interest to listen to a Shawn Mendes album to begin with, but I guess it was different this time around with the teaser tracks. I couldn't help myself. Pairing up Intro and Wonder were the perfect co-leads to reel me in on this record. Shawn left me absolutely breathless on the atmospheric and euphoric title track, God Sent, such a magical song. I salute you, Shawn Mendes. My past doubts, of course, had me thinking there's no way in hell that he could follow this up, but calling upon Justin Bieber for Monster had me again stunned and impressed. Thank God this wasn't deja vu from the last time we had an all-star, all-male collaboration. I'm looking at you, Justin Bieber and Ed Sheeran. Jokes aside, Monster is an empathetic and insightful commentary on fame. It speaks towards owning up to the mistakes made in the limelight from a young age. All this talk of pressure and being put on a pedestal, Shawn and the Biebs pen a track that is easy to empathize with, and it's an all-Canadian, slick and cool showcase that climactically ends just as well as it begins. Now, I would say my expectations after those singles were still held fairly high, especially after watching the Netflix documentary In Wonder, which is meant not only to promote this new record here, but also to summarize the events from Shawn's previous world tour on the heels of his self-titled release. Snippets and demos from Wonder were sprinkled in, of course, teasing the fans even more. I will admit that even I was salivating at the thought and glimpses of most of these tracks. However, now that the final project is here with the official release, I am left a little torn and a little upset. Let's cover the positives first, which come on the track Teach Me How to Love. I did not like this song one bit in the documentary. I thought the gospel and R&B elements clashed with Shawn's style and appeal as an artist, but after hearing this in full with the final mix, with the smooth and polished guitars, the groovy bass line and falsetto hooks, all of that makes this track an easy qualifier for radio single airplay. I wouldn't mind that at all, actually. Let's also not forget about this in combination with the simple and honest, sensual songwriting that actually plays out in the favor of Shawn this go-around. Teach Me How to Love is one of my favorites on this record for its raw and laying all the cards on the table kind of emotions. Another pleasant surprise from the documentary came from the cut Dream, which starts out on a very corny verse melody, but even I can't be too hard on a track like this since it has swirling synthesizers that make up for that in its chorus. With a steady drum beat and arpeggiated acoustic guitar outro, they make this track even more deserving of its title Dream. Carrying over onto the next cut, Song for No One, we have plucked guitars before this Tell Me I'm Pretty era, Cage the Elephant kind of strings and horns. Very 60s inspired. The production does remind me of Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys. That would be great in any case, as I love a lot of Cage the Elephant and the Black Keys, but unable to scratch beyond the lyrical surface, this tune also tails off and is rather a case of smushing together two song ideas with no payoff on either. The biggest culprit of mashing song ideas together, look no further than Look Up at the Stars. This track is easy to be misled by the In Wonder documentary. Many people, including myself, might have seen this as an ode to early Coldplay piano balladry akin to The Scientist or Tricks You. Instead, random stretches of instrumental passages and a Queen-esque guitar solo lace this track and round it out into a very unfocused mess. I do like Shawn's vocal performance on here, however, God, not what I was expecting, and even more disappointing after sounding like a possible ballad for the ages. The biggest letdown, in my opinion, however, from the documentary has to be the cut Always Been You, which, as great as it sounded in the demo stage, I'm convinced either the mixing or mastering here ruined what was potentially a great track and a great tune at the core of it, which it still has. I just can't excuse the horribly compressed horns that ring off much like a violent gunshot next to my face. A startling experience that is only met forcibly by cranking up the volume on Shawn's very soft-spoken delivery. It's always been you, it's always been you. And look, I appreciate the dynamic contrast. Trust me, it's a great idea. I think Shawn's heart and intentions were in the right place as well. After all, he tipped his cap to Frankie Valli's Can't Take My Eyes Off You for this record at large. But with the execution on the production end of Always Been You, it's leaving a lot to be desired. Now, if Shawn was intending to throw multiple song ideas together and get a little weird and experimental here and there, I can't fault him for wanting to do that, but I still get this feeling that he's holding on to generic pop tendencies with a handful of tracks. Look no further than the cut Higher, which has a prominent bass line that loops on end, lyrics that repeat even more frequently without saying much of anything, obviously just songwriting that is heavily uninspired despite being one of the highlights for production on here. The lyrics are not the only part of this album that are heavily underwritten. If we look at the songs 24 Hours and Can't Imagine, whether it's piano or guitar, scarce instrumentation and skeletal structures leave these tracks vulnerable on the emotional front, while also lacking immensely in musical memorability or originality. So much that it's like Shawn is limping across the finish line and wants this album to fizzle out on a cliche. If Shawn adds in brighter guitar leads on the song 305, for example, I don't see him fixing this issue either. I still don't see any grit or teeth behind the instrumental, the melody is fluff, and I'm still being subjected to hopeless romantic type lyrics that make me want to reach for the bucket. If there's a door to heaven, baby, you're the key, and if I had to beg, I'd be on my knees. Ugh. Okay, so glimpses of reason to like this record are few and far between. Piece of You, though, is actually a compelling piece of music. It sees Shawn admitting his insecurities and competitive nature for a girl, presumably Camila, as this record is about. I'm surprised he just doesn't name drop her. The production, though, it is layered, it is dynamic. The performance is much more passionate and pressing, almost manic, which I can certainly get behind. It is interesting. It's not just another generic exercise of writing a love song. So yeah, if more songs were like this and the title track and maybe a couple others, this album could have been better, but the documentary and Shawn's hype for this record were very deceiving. Much of the runtime, listeners were teased with one thing and met by another. The songwriting, although it has improved since Shawn's debut, I still think he's got some work to do to avoid basic chord progressions, repetitive and cliched lyrics. And really, what could have been the most interesting part about Wonder and Imagination beyond the singles, they aren't really talked about in the greatest of detail. Sadly, this album just ends up being another textbook, by the numbers, falling in love pop record without the personal flair to support it. I'm feeling a strong 5 out of 10 on this record. Half of it is strong, and then the other half is just hit or miss, not gonna lie. So there you have it. There is the review for Shawn Mendes and Wonder. Make sure you guys sound off down below in the comments now. Tell me what you think of this music, whether you agree or disagree. I'm here to engage with you guys. If you'd like to leave a like or subscribe if you're new in town, I'd appreciate that. As always, thanks for watching and have a rockin' day.